Response video to Hythloday. I'm probably going to play his video. It's 18 minutes, and so yeah, that'll be after this beginning part. So I'll try to do this beginning part briefly, just run down the value math really quickly, and I'll say to Hythloday, show where there's some unreasonable presumptions, unreasonable statements of fact in this rundown, this statement, and then we can find out where this disagreement is. Yeah, but that's sort of your obligation here. Your misparaphrases are getting preposterously annoying, and that's all you keep doing. You keep wrongly defining the premises and then arguing those. That's called a straw man, and you just keep doing it, and it's bullshit. I'm going to point out where it's bullshit. So first, as he's whining about goals, I mean, it's just so stupid. I just don't know where you guys get these ideas from. That's another line of his. Anyway, the goal is to live a good life, right? A minimally efficient life. So I've metaphored it to other things. I mean, I have to use metaphors. Okay, there's no other way to do this. But, I mean, yeah, if you're an engineer, you want to engineer things so they're efficient, so they don't use as much fuel, there's less friction, those are the kind of things you're looking for. If you're a janitor, you want to clean windows, and you want to do it efficiently. You want to get the most dirt off in the least amount of time. These are the values of your job performance, and your existence on Earth will have impact. It'll have impact on things that have value, and that's the argument. I've said it before. Sentient creatures create value. If you don't agree with that premise, that a sentient being, a feeling thing, is intrinsically and fundamentally creating a thing called value by having a state of conscious welfare. If you don't agree with that premise, then just say so. Be a nihilist. Be whatever the fuck you're going to be. But yeah, we really don't have anything to talk about, because you are defining and perceiving the universe entirely different than I am. I don't think rocks have value. I don't think planets have value. I don't think galaxies have value. I think sentient feeling things have value, and nothing else. Nothing else. The welfare of sentient beings is where all other value comes from. If something doesn't affect the welfare of a sentient being, it can't possibly be of value significance. It can only be of value significance if it creates or destroys or in some other way affects sentient existences. Alright, that's a premise. If you don't agree with that, then let's just quit talking to each other. Go fly a kite or do whatever the fuck you want to do. But yeah, you're not having a relevant conversation about reality, in my opinion, if you can't recognize or acknowledge this basic truth of the economy we exist in. Alright, so in existence we have a function or a production, and that is our consciousness. That's the biggest thing about us, is our consciousness. Okay, even though some of us are, endowed and shit, and we're beautiful and all that kind of crap. No, the really important thing that's happening is the consciousness thing. That's the real valuable thing. The rest of this shit they just throw in the ground, let rot. Okay, once this consciousness thing stops working, yeah, the rest of this shit they throw in the garbage, because it's shit. It's just shit. The only thing that matters is this consciousness. Alright, and it's a feeling, thinking device, and it's having experiences. So conscious experiences of a qualitative value state. So we're having what we're doing is we're having experiences of a qualitative state. That means they have a value state in the sense that there are good experiences and bad experiences. There are positive experiences and negative experiences. There, positive, negative. We have numbers now. We have a value. We don't have to define the explicit values. We just have to acknowledge the fact that there are states of being that are decidedly not favorable and ones that are decidedly favorable by relative comparison to the not favorable. And that's the simplest, basic statement that can be made. Maybe you can make some more elaborate statement that a beautiful masterpiece of art or something is somehow just oozing some sort of value quantity into this math, but I don't think you can. But anyway. Alright, now there's these things that we're doing, this consciousness stuff is happening internally, so we are having it. That's the self, and I'm arguing that's the smallest component. Yourself is the smallest component of how you're interacting in the world. Okay? Your effect on yourself is the slightest of the weight of value that you're interacting with. Yourself is just one little checker piece. Alright? So then you have your external experiences, the experiences you you cause to happen, you affect, the experiences you affect that happen external to you in the world, and that's a large component. Okay, what happens in the world because of your interaction with people, it's a large component of your value weight of your existence. Whether you make people feel better or whether you make people feel worse, whether you uplift their life and soften their life and improve their life, or you do the opposite. You cause them harm, you make them alcoholic, or do some other kind of thing, and cause real hard damage to their conscious welfare. And your life will have such an impact. The world will either be better off for you being here, or it'll be worse off for you. That's the goal, is to make the world better off and not worse off. That's the goal. You don't accept that as a reasonable goal, then tell me you don't accept that as a reasonable goal. Fine, we can end the conversation. The biggest component is external and eternal. Okay, so that's called the future. So your long-term impact, what will happen generations and generations from now. We can have impacts that go forever, and we have to take consequences for them. Like if I have a child, then it's all their children, their grandchildren, their great-grand. All those people are my responsibility. All that they do in the world is, in a sense, my bad or my good. And that's just the truth of it. And, so obviously in the case of the Hitler lineage, there's a lot of failures going all the way back because, one of their kids turned out really, really bad. And that's the largest component, is your future impact of your existence. Now look, all these things we can't know exactly. We can't know exactly what the right thing to do. We can't know exactly what the impact's going to be on the future. There's just no way to do that. All we can know is stuff probabilistically. And some of the stuff we can know so probabilistically that we can say, yes, it's guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. It's not a good thing to drink and drive. These are the things we can know. The probabilities are so outrageously conform to the negative in terms of outcome that we can say for a fact this is something you don't do. The risk is not worth the benefit. There's no benefit to some things, and there's just nothing but risk. So obviously those things fall into this beyond a reasonable doubt. You don't do this. There's an ought here. You ought not to do this beyond a reasonable doubt. There's no reasonable argument that can be made to justify the behavior, because the behavior is so risk-laden with downside potential. Do you understand that sentence? Anyway, so there's two components here, the good and the bad. So in contriving ourselves a purpose, okay, because we can't have one naturally, okay? I mean, it's a replicating molecule. I don't want to take this all the way back to the beginning, but let's understand the context here. We'll accept evolution. We accept that it's a replicating molecule, that it is basically a gladiator war through natural selection, that there is no mechanism in the universe that does any of these value equations, that gives a damn about this thing efficiently running or any of that crap. It was invented by crude forces, and the fact is it's crude in its mechanism and in its function. And so it didn't just show up and say, here, I have a function for you, I have a purpose, I can fix the problem the universe has. We don't fix the problem the universe has, just as if the Venetians existed, they wouldn't be fixing a problem, and if the Martians existed, they wouldn't be fixing a problem. All they do is fix their own problem that they create. Deal with that argument. But that's the context here. If you believe in some other spiritual god frog or some other kind of nonsense, then fine, let me know. But without a god, you have unintelligent design, and guess what? There's a lot of non-purpose built into unintelligent design. So anyway, but if you want to have a good life, this is how you have to do it. Good is created by preventing or redeeming bad. So if you prevent or redeem a bad, that's a good. And by redeeming, I mean you make the bad thing into good by making the bad thing prevent double bad, for example. So, some sort of circumstance where if I take away the thing, the cupcake now, there can be 2 cupcakes later. If I put off something now, it can be double later, those kind of scenarios where you redeem what is a short-term bad for a long-term good. So you spend a little extra on taxes now, you create some kind of energy independence, and then the future lives a much better life perpetually because you did the right thing to make things right, to fix it. So that would be a redeeming bad. So this is where gain for pain equations begin. And but the very structural idea is that the bad, you eliminate the bad, that's a good. That one we know for sure. Okay, that's the guarantee. We know that one. We know that if you have somebody having, let's say, dental work done, and you have a vial of Novocaine, and you can go back in the past, let's say, or something, and shoot them up, that's an automatic good. I mean, you stopped pain, there's no downside problem, there's no anything happening except the fact that you eliminate somebody going through horrible pain, and it's just a good. And there's just no, that's the way you make good, is to stop bad. Bad gets a little more complicated, because one argument would be you create a bad by degrading a good. So somebody's in a nice, comfortable chair, and you just kick the leg out of the chair and put them in a bad circumstance. There, that's bad. So anytime you cause bad, it's bad, obviously. But it's basically about degrading a good. But there's no, there's no opposite reciprocal here, and that sort of indicates the fact that the bad is the source. The bad is what good is made out of. Good is the elimination of bad. And the fact that there is no real good definition of a bad outside of degrading a good is just sort of defines the fact that it's the bad that's the first cause. Alright, so now we can discuss alternative ways to create a good. So we know that this Mother Teresa shit here, like say an honest Mother Teresa, healing the world, fixing things, that you could certainly make your life worth living, your existence totally productive, by preventing bad things from happening to good people. You can do that, and you will have a good life that way. You can have purpose that way. But again, understand, that mess didn't have to be made in the first place. You're cleaning up a mess that doesn't need to exist would still be the argument. But the fact is, you can make your life good by cleaning up messes. And the argument also is, the context of that argument is, but the mess shouldn't have been made in the first place. The shit shouldn't be on the floor. You cleaning up, very good. But it still shouldn't have been there. Alright, so let's see. Alternative ways to create good. Manifest hunger. Hunger is a good. Horny is a good. To a point that they seem, the sense of it is that yes, it's fun to be engaged in wanting. Some want is fun, but obviously that want gets out of control really fast and in really hideous ways. So that's a dangerous way to acquire a good, is through this thing called ambition. So satisfied ambition, another question mark. I mean, are my ambitions really valuable? Aren't they just some delusion in my head that I need to be something? So say you want to be Queen of France. I mean, you probably, I can kind of get a sense that's what you really want to do. But anyway, let's say that's your ambition. You want to be Queen of France. Is your satisfied ambition really that meaningful? Isn't that something like just a kid wanting, a pink frog for his birthday or something? I mean, does it really amount to anything, your desire, your ambition? And I guess I would argue that satisfying those ambitions is a very small way to gain good, relative to, saving somebody from having their legs crushed under a steamroller or something. Relative. Those things are, there's just no comparison. So desire or contingent to deprivation, is it in and of itself good? So is desiring in and of itself a good thing? What the hell is wrong with my damn connection? I have to have my internet connection to play the damn video. So I gotta fix that. Close it. I want you to repair it. That's what I want you to do. Bastard. Repair it. Do it. It appears to be repaired. Close that. Close that. Probably screwed up my other things. Whatever, doesn't matter. Alright, so again, desire, contingent deprivation. So again, desire is made out of a deprivation. You have to be put in a negative state so you can want to improve your state. And that's sort of what we're saying here, is that this desire thing is what screws the game in terms of our perception. It creates this perception of value that isn't real, where we see a value in Cheetos or, I don't know, hard nipples, whatever. jewel-encrusted crowns. Whatever the thing is we see value in, and that projection of value is completely delusional mush. It doesn't have any real character. Where the perception that there's a necessity to go stop the steamroller from running over somebody's legs is a real perception of value. It's not a projection of value, it's a recognition of value, and the need for value to be attained by rescuing the person from the harm. Alright, yeah, I just don't know where these guys get your ideas from. So this is where I get the ideas from, okay? It's not that complicated. You can put the context of evolution on here: replication for the sake of replication, consumption, reproduction, cannibalism, addiction, gladiator war, that context. This is the game we're playing. There's suffering in the balance. That's the negative. And and we have, as the positive state, the acquisition of satisfied hunger. So first you need to be hungry for the food to have value. Quite obviously you're not going to see value in the food if you don't have hunger. If you don't have ambition, you're not going to see need to open the door and go out into the world and see if you can find, see if you can get opportunity to knock, whatever. So again, it always requires you to be in a lesser state for you to need to be in a better state. And you're chasing a better state, and I would argue that that good, if it has any good value, any real good value, is a minuscule good value compared to the harm that's being paid in terms of sentient beings in the world are being exposed to. And again, I'm talking about sentient beings, not just human life. And so that's the context. So there, how long was that? Brutally, 16 minutes. Yeah, it's hard to do for less than 16 minutes. So anyway, so yeah, do this, do an F-list video or something, but you got to respond to something like direct quotes. I'm just sick of you not directly quoting me and butchering every single paraphrase you make of my position and my argument. I think it's just disgustingly poor form. Yeah, really. It's just weasel behavior, it really is. So, let's have at it.
I just don't know where you guys get your ideas from.
Again, why should I, this whole book thing, like this is supposed to mean something to me or something. Again, I don't, why do I need that? I could show you a stack of biology books, psychology books, physics books. Does that mean something? No, I'm versed in the basic functional subjects of physics, chemistry, and biology. That's all I need to start doing logic. I don't need any more than that. I mean, biology does include neuroscience.
I set out this 3 years ago and quickly realised it and kind of had done with the whole inmendham philosophy because
you pussied out, and then you posted your raggy little video from 3 years ago here on this video, which I think is just outrageous. You want to go back to the argument 3 years ago? You want me to play your old video again and go through the same arguments all over again? I thought you had accepted a premise here that suffering sucks. Apparently you are now retracting that. Fine. So now we're going back to what, 0 again? So I just call you a nihilist and say, shut the fuck up, asshole. Obviously we disagree because I'm not a nihilist, you lunatic. I see value in the sentient welfare of sentient creatures. Gee, how crazy of me. What a lunatic theory. Yeah, right. My personal experience screams it. You're never going to come up with an argument to unravel the fact that I know that when I have a toothache, it sucks. I know it, shithead. You're not going to unsuck it. You're not going to change that. I know if I had a goddamn tumor in my anus that it would suck, okay? And your fucking philosophical mumbo-jumbo ain't going to make it not suck, shit for brains, okay? You have absolutely no hope of converting me to the, oh, tumors are fun theory. Alright, so just take that shit, shove that up your ass. You're an asshole and a lunatic. I'm not going back and arguing that shit again, fucktard. So I think you posting that bullshit video of yours again is fucking lame behavior.
Nobody seemed to take it on. But since then, I've seen other people make videos, perhaps Luddite Returns.
Oh, perhaps this, perhaps that, perhaps there was an argument somewhere, someplace, somehow, over the rainbow. I mean, you're gonna fall into song now about the magical argument that was made that proved something or demonstrated something. Again, completely unsubstantiated, non-evidence-based argumentation. Never do you produce quotes or evidence. You just talk out of your fucking ass.
But I'm not entirely sure. At least, I think perhaps two people have also struck upon the idea. After I first stated it 3 or more years ago. And that is, you judge my purpose in life.
Oh, fuck you. I judge life, shithead. The whole fucking subject is life spelled backwards, jackass. It's not about your life, fuckwit. Alright, so again, perversion all over the place. Yeah, that's right, life happened on Earth. If there was life on Mars, I would judge its character. Okay, if there was like tentacle monsters eating, squirmy doobies, and they were eating gabba-dabbas, I might sit there and say, which one of those things are more important? Maybe I should go help out the gabba-gabbies who are being imprisoned and enslaved by the hookah-dookers. Maybe I would say that there was some necessity to do that, some necessity to interfere because something nice and precious was being abused by something awful and nasty. Alright, and I'm doing the same thing to the fucking life on this planet. I'm just looking at it and I'm saying, what does it do? What does it function? How does it function? What does it produce? Is there any efficiency in this shit? And I'm saying, what's the grease here? How can we make this a little better? Oh yeah, well this cutting down on this suffering thing might be a first fucking step, retards. It's not about you, you bag of shit.
You assign my purpose in life. Insofar as you say, I don't have a purpose,
I'm saying no living thing has a purpose, fuckwit. Okay, there's nothing you can do in the universe. All you can do is come here with a bag of needs in your pocket and say, I have need, I have ambition, I have desire. And then you go into the world like a Pac-Man and you say, how can I take what I want? And what I'm saying is when we start to talk about ethics, well, the question is, how much can you take and still be ethical or decent or good? You're going to violate the good equation if you fucking consume more than you're goddamn worth, you motherfucker. That's beyond the bounds of reason again, to judge the Pac-Man? No, it isn't shit for brains.
And have a purpose, there is no purpose. You don't conceptually understand this.
Yeah, I don't conceptually understand your vague, no-sniffly God or whatever you're making up here. I'm saying life doesn't serve a purpose. You got some evidence that it serves a purpose? You're telling me that there was a purpose for the Venetians and somehow that purpose just wasn't very important because somehow we're not doing anything to fulfill their purpose? We're not taking up the slack for them in any way? We're not concerned about the Martians' purpose that isn't being fulfilled? No, explain to me what the purpose of life is, shit for brains. Explain it to me if you claim there to be one. I never said human beings don't have any function on Earth. I didn't say human beings can't be good in their behavior. I've never said that. Because you don't have the balls to quote me, you fucking cunt. And that's why you don't understand that. It's because if you actually went to the trouble to find a fucking quote, you'd realize, oh, I'm totally full of shit. Because the only way I can make this quote work for me is I have to deny the context of the video. And I have to deny the fact that right before he said this, he said that. But that's the kind of weasel you fucking are.
You object to me explaining the value equation as far as I agree with it and as far as I understand with it. I'm not saying this is your value equation.
Well, whatever. You want to argue your own value equation, argue your own value equation. I didn't sit there. I'm not going to sit there and do both at the same time, shithead. You should be able to figure that much out at least, that you can only fucking argue one theory at a fucking goddamn time. If you're going to claim somebody else's theory is wrong, well, maybe you ought to stick to that theory and explain how it's fucking goddamn wrong. If you're going to claim you have a writer theory, well, go ahead and claim it. Okay? But again, I'm going to disengage from it as soon as you say something like, I think it's purposeful for me to have shiny shoes, or some kind of crap like that. And I'm going to say, fuck you, that's a delusion in your goddamn head, jackass. Your fucking shoes could be fucking critiqued to goddamn hell and back, and the fact of whether they're shiny or not couldn't mean a goddamn thing to anything with a rational brain.
You object to it throughout your video, yet you go on to qualify it in exactly the terms that I agree with it, in that it is purely an existential fact that animals are capable of suffering.
Yeah, well, my argument to you is that once you've established the existence of a negative, the idea, the ought, is automatically a fact, okay? As soon as you say suffering is suck, you're stuck with we ought to minimize it. That's logic, shithead. If you can't tie those two things together logically or understand why there's some logical necessity to fix something that's broken, you've essentially said it's broken, it's negative, it's in degraded state, and logically the inverse words are all automatically imposed. You don't have a choice about them. The obligation is intrinsic to the fact that you've just said it's broken, now fixing is the agenda.
Do suffer. The disagreement is that you can provide the valuation.
The disagreement is that you can provide the evaluation. What do I do with that? Cha-ching. No sale. Cha-ching. Sorry. I don't know what is that? I don't know what to do with that sentence. It's not coherent.
On what basis can you do this?
On what basis do I do what? Suffering sucks. What do I have to do beyond that? Suffering is bad. It's a negative. It should be minimized because it degrades the system. If I was an engineer, it would be friction. If I was a janitor, it would be dirt. It is the thing I'm here to correct.
You liken the value equation to an economic system, more like an economic calculus. Well, economics has purpose.
Oh, bullshit. Economics is, again, a description of reality, shitheads. You can't even get that correct. What economics professors attempt to do, or theorists, is they attempt to describe how the system works. Okay, so you can understand why it's going to fall or degrade or not make it, or why it's going to die because of heat exhaustion or some other thing. They're explaining the physics of economies. They're explaining the dynamics. What are the moving parts? How do they move? What do they do over time? How does it age? How does it mature? How does it rot? That's what economics does, you shithead. Okay, it's a description of reality. It isn't a description of purpose.
And if you want to make this analogy, please tell me the purpose of this valuation system.
I don't have to explain it. We just defined the goddamn thing. You conceded to the argument that the suffering is a red number. It's a minus sign with a number on it. A quantity. A quantity of negativeness exists in the universe when something is having its fucking head drilled, a sentient being. Okay, there's negative existing. It's a negative, okay? It's a negative number. That automatically implicates math. If you can't see how that automatically creating a negative number automatically implicates the function of math, then I can't help you. But yes, math is automatically implicated because now the negative number stays here until you find something else to put on the scales. Scales are about the simplest, most basic logical tool there is. And yes, the scales are now decidedly negative unless you can find a way to rationally justify, defend, put positive of some kind to justify the existence of the negative. That's the math. Duh.
When you do, you ascribe to me my purpose. So you better have very good foundations other than suffering is bad and we're all obligated to end it.
Well, I'm sorry. I mean, really, if that has to be somehow built upon in some elaborate way, I say bullshit on you. That is the most idiotic thing in the world. Yes, suffering's bad. It should be minimized. That logical statement speaks for its fucking self. It doesn't need anything else. I'm telling you, right to your fucking face. If you create more suffering in the world than your stupid gratification is worth, if your stupid ambitions are trivial and nonsensical, if you decide to go out and molest, 17 little boys to get your fucking Queen of France crown, somebody might have the argument and say, you aren't fucking worth it, jackass. Your fucking ambition to be Queen of France isn't goddamn worth the harm you did to those fucking kids, you stupid creep. And they could do it quite rationally. It would be quite a rational statement for them to say, you're not worth it, shithead. So if you're going to tell me your purpose, okay, I'm telling you your purpose here is irrelevant to the argument. The argument is, will you produce more good or will you produce more bad? Will your existence create more negative numbers or will your existence erase the negative numbers or turn them on their side and put another negative through them and create a positive? Will you do that? That's the definition. You'll either be an asshole who was fucking unproductive or you'll be a good human who was productive, who made more good, more converted negatives into positives, or one who failed to do that. And that's all there is. There isn't any purpose, shithead, beyond the fact that you will either suck in how you function, you will either be a friction, part-throwing, destroying menace, or you will be a healer and a helper and a benefit. That's it. There's nothing else. There's no purpose beyond that.
That doesn't carry weight. It carries no logical inference at all.
Right. Suffering bad, fix suffering. No logical inference whatsoever. Well, I'm sorry. If you can't, it is built into the language. It's built into the fact. As soon as you say the word negative, as soon as you associate harm with negative, you created the math, you create the equation.
Is your premise. You are correct. The problem is with the premise. You don't carry logical authority by name-dropping the fact that you're using a premise.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm not even name-dropping the fact that I'm using a premise, because I don't even think it's a premise. Frankly, I don't think it's some sort of axiom that has to be accepted on faith or anything else. I think, quite obviously, that every motherfucking cunt of you bastard nihilist pigs, okay, if I was sitting there with a goddamn drill and sticking it next to the side of your head and you had a choice, press the button to do it or not to do it, you wouldn't sit there and say, just flip a coin. I don't give a fuck. You wouldn't say that, because you know goddamn well one state of being would suck and one state of being would be much better than that. It wouldn't suck. Okay? One state would suck, one state would be not suck. And you goddamn well know the goddamn fucking difference.
Arguments can be valid when the premise is assumed to be true, but what we're seeking and asking of you is to make an argument that is true.
Well, I'm sorry. You sit there and say you accept the idea that suffering is a negative. It's a price being paid for existence. This is it's like if there was a nuclear power plant. The risk is that you will harm people. That's the downside risk. That's the price you're paying, is that you're assigning yourself a risk. And that's true of everything. Having automobile transport, the assigned risk, the price we pay for it is the harm caused to citizens who are run over and citizens who are killed and harmed and maimed and injured and all that kind of crap on the highways. That's the price we pay. We would see the price as a harm. We wouldn't see the price as, oh, well, roads get worn out and tires, the rubber comes off of them. No, that would be incidental, little trivial shit. The real price we're paying is the fact that people get killed on highways. They get harmed on highways. They go through suffering on highways. That's the harm. And we want to minimize the fucking harm. Duh.
And that necessitates soundness in logic. And that necessitates that you justify your premise, not simply say, because I say so, and because definitionally, bad is bad. Bad is bad, but there is, by the definition that bad is bad, there is no logical jump to obligation.
Well, there you go. So what can I do with that? I don't have it. What can I say? If you don't think there's a logical obligation when you create a deficit in economics to undo the deficit, to have some compensating factor, to have some compensating profit, that you could just run your business on complete deficit. Deficit, 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 deficit. We don't have to have a profit. We don't have to do any of this compensating. We don't have to redeem any of that deficit. We don't have to make any of that deficit create profit. We don't have to do anything. We can just sit there and make deficit and we'll call ourselves successful economically. No, of course that would not be successful. Of course that would be preposterous. So it's built into the structure of the math, idiot. Again, as soon as you create a red number, you create the vision of the reciprocal, okay? And you create the mechanism of the balancing scale. I can't do it any better for you. I can't prove the fact of that any better to you, okay? If you're too stupid to figure out that a deficit, a broken, a flaw, a dysfunction, a friction, a waste doesn't need to be cleaned up, then fuck you. You're too stupid for conversation.
Except that you say so.
Oh, yeah, I say so because I have no choice but to say so, you shithead. There's no other way for me to explain the wetness of water, the stinkiness of poo. How the fuck do I do it any other way but to say it's stinky, shithead? Is there some other way for me to say poo is stinky besides saying poo is stinky, you stupid shit? I don't think so, you dumb fuck.
Economics has the purpose of working out how to distribute limited resources amongst competing ends.
Oh, bullshit. That's not economics. That's fucking economic theory. You guys start getting into the isms, okay? But that's not economics at its roots. That's not a description of economics. So that's just bullshit, too. That's projecting, that's the prescription, okay? That's not the diagnosis.
This is how, this was succinctly stated by either Tim Hartford in Undercover Economists or Freakonomics by the other guy. I can't remember.
Yeah, but whatever. So what, now I have to bow to your authorities? Well, I say fuck your authorities. I say most of them don't know what the fuck they're even talking about. They don't even know what the function of money is or how its creation. I'd say I know that better than they do. So fuck you. I don't have to bow to your authorities because they say that's what economics is. I say fuck you. What economics is the description of the exchange of value between human beings. That's what economics is. You want to call it something else? Fine, fuck you. I'm saying it's a description of what happens when humans attempt to exchange value. How do you contract that?
I think that's the best all-encompassing definition. You can search for it, but it doesn't really show. But if you can if you want to object to it, explain how.
Look, jackass, I called it a metaphor, okay? Value economics, I called it a value equation. Now, that doesn't mean the value equation is only in this economic metaphor. It could be a physics metaphor or a chemistry metaphor. But it doesn't. This is just such fucking semantic bullshit, all right? There's an economy of value. All right, and what I'm saying is it parallels any other economic theory. So any kind of economic theory about how economies work and value exchanges work, I'm saying this applies to our exchange of our welfare. When we go to work, we're exchanging our welfare for a money thing that represents somebody else's welfare. You can't understand that?
How it doesn't speak to other people's general definitions and an all-encompassing.
Oh,
so the point
fuck
is,
you.
Though, that it has purpose. You talk about benefits. What is the benefit? What is the benefit? What is the benefit? There's no benefit. This language speaks to purpose. It's
bullshit. So again, you're not quoting me. Again, I've never taken it out of any other context but the fact that life does not serve a function. It is not a present the universe needed. The universe didn't have a wound and life showed up and healed the wound. None of that happened. So we have no redeeming purpose outside of our own existence. So whatever purpose we have to make out of what we are doing. So somehow we have to make something the universe didn't need, but it's going to need now that it exists. Somehow because it exists, it somehow needs to exist. And I'm saying that hasn't happened. Okay, all we have is delusions in people's heads built on their own ego. We don't have any evidence that we're serving any need or function. We haven't created a purpose for ourselves. And there was no way to do it anyway. That's the whole point. There is no fucking way that something can do something for nothing. If there's a nothing, there's a void sitting there, the great nothing. There's absolutely nothing you can do for it. There's nothing you can give the nothing.
Speaks to you saying, because you've worked out there is no big purpose to life, which there isn't,
okay, so you've conceded another point. So there, you've conceded two now. Suffering is red numbers, and there's no redeeming external purpose. So to fix the red numbers, we have to come up with something here in our existence to compensate for the red. Something real.
Deny me the evaluation of my own purposes in life, and that I can see value in myself and in my offspring.
Well, I'm not going to argue about your offspring, okay, your delusional emotional attachments, your nepotism, and that's what it is. You want to argue that nepotism has some theoretical, philosophical integrity? I'm going to laugh that out of court. I'm going to find that a ridiculous notion. That is nothing but psychobabble nonsense. That's like an addiction. That is a fucking intellectually frivolous attachment. The properties of value that child has. Okay? The your part is meaningless. Okay? Whether a child needs care is a property of the child, you shit for brain. Okay? The fact that it's yours and the fact that you're a bigot is your fucking problem that you should get over psychologically. Okay? But don't be telling me that I have to respect it. Fuck you. I don't have to respect that one goddamn minute, one goddamn second, any more than I respect the bigotry of some asshole talking about black people being inferior. You telling me your kid is superior is just as grotesque as some asshole talking about how black people are inferior. Fuck you, you nepotistic goddamn bigot. Fuck you. That's all that is. It's bigotry. I have to respect that? No, I don't have to respect that one goddamn minute. I don't have to respect your ambition to be Queen of France. I don't have to respect a goddamn thing that goes through your goddamn motherfucking cunt brain. I'm talking about the direct impact of our existence. To be here, the biosphere has to produce us oxygen and food and all this other shit, and it does it at a horrific price. You're taking from those animals, you're consuming their welfare, and you're being a goddamn gluttonous pig and doing it, okay? You can't even express enough sensitivity to say anything whatsoever about your obligation to compensate for that somehow. You don't think you have any obligation. Well, I say, fuck you, you cunt, you taker, you motherfucking taker.
You deny any future offspring, that generations that you say shouldn't come into existence. You deny them the decision of the choice for themselves.
Well, they can't make the choice for themselves, you stupid fuck. Yeah, I mean, it's just an idiotic notion. How do they make the choice for themselves, okay? We don't give people the right to kill themselves when they're 4 years old. We don't give people the right to kill themselves when they're 40 years old, you stupid shit. So until you fix that, you've got no argument, and certainly no mammals, no other sentient creatures on this planet volunteer, consign, accept risk. None of them. So who are you to say you have a right to impose and wait for them to kill themselves? I'll make you and then I'll oblige you to kill yourself. Why should I be obliged to do a motherfucking thing? No, you do it right or you don't do it at all. Have you ever heard that simple little phrase? You know, if you're going to do it, you do it right or you don't do it at all, fucking cunt. Alright, if you can't not make a mess, then you don't fucking play with it, you stupid shit. You have no right to do it.
You've decided that the calculus is outweighed. I say it's not.
Well, you're not on the subject, so it doesn't goddamn matter. So this is the whole fucking problem. Now you've changed the subject to you. We're not talking about you stupid shit. We're talking about a value equation. We're talking about the reality that harm exists, and you have to come up with something productive, some way to compensate for the harm existing. And you obviously can't use the fact that, okay, well, I put a Band-Aid on that person over there. Therefore, that person over there who's suffering, well, that compensates for it because I made them feel better. That person suffering is now negated and balanced. Well, no, it doesn't work that way. Okay, the person you healed is in a better condition, but it doesn't undo the negative over here. The fact that you have some delusional perception in your head that you're accomplishing something obligates me in no way to say, oh yes, he's definitely creating all kinds of positive because he's trying to be Queen of France. Well, no, your ambition to be Queen of France has absolutely no meaning when I look at an animal whose legs have been just broken on the road, and it's in the ditch, squirming about. Okay, when I look at that animal suffering, okay, your ambition to be Queen of France doesn't mean shit compared to that fucking harm.
I say it's a total, this calculus is a total subjective matter.
You have the arrogance, the fucking timidity to sit there and talk about goddamn fucking subjective crap when you just sit there and used your goddamn kid in the argument, you fucking putrid piece of shit. You know, god damn, that is just so weaselly.
My argument for right is totally rational and based truly upon logic.
Says you, or what? What the hell was that? What the hell was that? Bullshit. Nepotism is logical. Sorry. Fail. Let me say that again. Nepotism is logical. No, sorry. Fail. It's bigotry.
Everything I say is a direct logical inference based upon the very principles of logic, ultimately boiling down to the fact, you know, that everything must obey in order to be ascribed logical. It must obey the law of non-contradiction.
Yeah, what does that have to do with anything? What does that have to do? In what video did I disobey the law of non-contradiction? In what video did I ever advocate for anything else for the existence of that law as a logical law? I've stated it. I stated in a comment on your goddamn video just 4 days ago, you stupid cunt. I mean, how dare you? How dare you? Guess what? When people disagree, that's called a contradiction. It has to be resolved. That's the obligation, logically.
Treating people with equality, then you're shooting yourself in the foot.
Oh, whatever. Treating people with equality. What does that have to do with this subject? Oh, that's right. Absolutely nothing. The whole argument about whether people are intrinsically equal is kind of nonsensical. I'm arguing their welfare is intrinsically equal. It doesn't matter which one suffers and which one doesn't suffer. I mean, suffering is the enemy. It doesn't matter what vessel the suffering is in. All right? I'm making that argument. But to say that all people are equal, that all people should be able to have the same... Oh, we give everybody a truck driver's license, even if they're not qualified to drive a truck. Give everybody a physics degree, even if they never took a day of physics in their life. Give everybody what? No, everybody's not equal. Everybody has different capacities, understandings, and competency. And it's not irrelevant to a subject of value. But I'm just saying it's irrelevant to this conversation about the nature of life. Here you are bringing up some fucking way out here piece of little rubbish. Okay? That has absolutely nothing to do with this fucking conversation, you retard.
So you're trying to reason about any kind of ethical system.
Again, you keep bringing up this ethical system stuff. Where are we talking about bringing up ethical systems? Again, where have I advocated for taking away poor people's votes? Where have I advocated for any of this nonsense? I've advocated for changing democracy and improving it. You want to make arguments against that philosophy? Well, go ahead and make arguments against those videos. But what the fuck does that have to do with this subject? Absolutely fucking nothing again. It's just more of your goddamn fucking slander. You're just such a lying motherfucking slanderer.
You know, look, you vegetarians, what about if we engineer the pig that wants to be eaten? You know,
Yeah, well, again, what, the pig, what, the slave that wants to be enslaved? What is that theory? What kind of nonsense is that? And again, for what? To defend what? A fucking vice you don't need to have instill in your children. There's no evidence that people have to be meat eaters. None. There's exactly the opposite evidence that the people who don't eat a lot of meat do very, very fucking goddamn well. They live on a minimalist diet and minimalist economies and fucking live pretty well in terms of their health, you stupid cunt. So you have nothing to defend here but your goddamn addiction, your motherfucking heroin addict, and you're saying, well, what if I make heroin harmless, and what if I make it free, what if I make it so heroin addicts never go outside? You're just making rationalizations for something that doesn't need to exist in the first place, you stupid fuck. But you're gonna what? You're gonna engineer a pig that wants you to eat it? I mean, this is just nonsense. How are you gonna raise it? What are you gonna feed it? Who's gonna pay for the engineering of it in that respect? You're just gonna keep wasting resources so you can have your pig? Fucking pig. You shouldn't even get on these other subjects. Well, again, you're not even going to stay on the subject, so I'm not going to play the whole fuck it. Fuck it. Just fuck it. This is enough of this crap. You're not even on the subject anymore. You've just left the building, and you're just a pretentious liar, and you suck. You suck at philosophy. You absolutely suck. You can't even stay on the fucking goddamn subject. Now you're going to talk about vegetarianism in the middle of this conversation. It's not about vegetarianism, jackass. All right? I would even argue that if everybody went vegetarian tomorrow, it's 0.00001% of the suffering on planet Earth. Yeah, there, we fixed 0.0001% of the suffering on Earth. Yeah, that's not much to fucking go home and say, wow, I deserve a trophy. That's how bad it is here. That's how fucking in the red we are on this planet. And you fucking assholes sit there and laugh your way through it. Well, what if I engineer a pig that wants me to cut him up and fry him in a pan? Fuck you, imbecile.